No, but we're talking here of the thing. I mean, you have all these songs. You choose the singles.
Yeah.
With each single, you want to make a statement. Is this what we're? Is this?
We do see them sort of chronologically, don't we?
Yeah. Or is it a case of sometimes, 3 weeks? Wow, this could be a single.
It is, but the dilemma for us is that virtually everything that we do, we feel, oh yes, this has to be heard by everybody, and this has to get as much exposure as possible. When you have a really good song and it's on an LP, perhaps erroneously, but I always feel that as a single release, it gets more attention, more people hear it, more people think about it than if it's simply an LP track. Even though an LP can sell massively, I mean, an LP can sell massively. But the songs that are on that LP are never really discussed in daily conversation, and so, I mean, the way I feel is that to get us more attention for a song, it should be a single, presuming it's going to be successful.
Yeah.
And association with that song. It's strange that I thought, when this Jam the Man came out, I thought that Morrissey was going to be seen as Jean Murray for the rest of his life, and then with the next single, Morrissey was seen as Terence Stamp, and I thought, how long is this going to be?
Yeah, right.
Well,
it's a bit of the way that David Byrne, that people can't deal with normality. It's the Anthony Perkins thing. It's like this man might be a bit psychopathic. I mean, that's the way the media deals with it. Yeah. I'm afraid you have to.
No, to be normal, you have to literally.
If you no one can want to be that normal. It's unhealthy. It shows signs of
It's because you don't cloud your lyrics. Cloud his lyrics in metaphor. If you're kind of the.
I have incredible envy of that because I come from a generation where I think maybe it's because punk was such but having been really brought up and really been musically moulded by the 60s and like Bob Dylan, you just have no imagination just how much he affected anyone who considered writing lyrics, and you had to put all these obtruse illusions, it was like the song, and you had to be so dense, and it's only in recent years that I've started to loosen up, and in fact when I heard your songs I thought, Christ, now this it's almost like one should be able to turn on the tap.
Right, exactly, which is what I never liked about Dylan. The fact that you could never really grasp his songs without volumes of sleeve notes, without reading, Arthur Rimbaud or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't like.
Well, there's a side to that. I mean, there is the genuine. If you want to go for that, you go to C.S. Eliot or James Joyce. I think where you're going to get something incredibly.
But I feel that if you really are clever and articulate, you can say something with very fundamental language in 2 lines.
Yeah.
And you don't really need another 3 verses.
Yeah.
And that's the way I always wanted to approach the way I wrote.
Yeah.
It's farcical when you think about it. Some magazine that's out this week, Smash It and one of those kind of things. It's got this kind of list of hot people, and it's got Morrissey, the man who made 1985. What's it called? It goes on about your kind of long-windedness or something. That's what it implies.
Really?
But when they actually listen to what Morrissey says,
there's a short songs around. I mean, when I first heard William, I thought, God, you don't waste anything. You just go in there and 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
Something like the normal speaking person will never be able to be playing English again. It's not necessarily. But it's this misconception.
People really resent anyone who uses big words, or even. I mean, they wouldn't want to know. They resent it. Why do you have to use those big words? I get incredibly. People are, being articulated. Or being articulated, that's brilliant. Being articulate, I'm sorry, but please erase me. Oh God. It can be, very resentful about it. And openly, it's almost like one flaunts it. It's like, in writing, there's only so many ways you can use the word percussion. Words, when you're dealing with reviewing records, there's only so many things you can talk about the guitar. There's only so many words, and you've got to make full use of the fucking, the English language to make this thing interesting, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
But this is why we're not played on the radio, and this is why people were horrified when they realised that the radio was only 2 minutes, 10 seconds long. You can't write a song that short anymore.
Yeah.
It has to be. What about a 12-inch? What about an extended version. I mean, don't you realise that so-and-so has just released a single that's 18 minutes long? And we got hit with all this.
We got hit with that constantly while we were recording it. And no, so much so to the point, really, that our record company, various people at our record company, while we were recording William, were really trying to suggest to us that we either put a guitar break in it, or that we write another verse, or something, so that it is conventional.
Yeah.
And then it might stand a chance in the marketplace. It's too unconventional. When the moment we wrote William, I was expecting mounds and mounds of praise from people as to.
Is that quite a recent song?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it is a recent song. Yeah.
Well, How Soon Is Now? That's recent as well.
Yeah.
Same time.
Yeah. But I was expecting, acclaim for saying everything that there is to be said about it in the way that song does in such a short time. It doesn't need anything else, and that's what I thought would be acclaimed for. And it was quite the reverse, It was a very easy snap. I mean, I find what does annoy me about people's criticisms is that I find them really so obvious that they're obviously,
The obviously uncaring,
very lazy.
It's like a street level mentality. I always think that all of Billy Fury's singles were all under 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
They were all spectacular. So for me, that's the only support that I ever needed for it being 2 minutes 10 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all, the song that, that's what needs to be said, to be said, that's it. I mean, another song which really, there are numerous songs that intrigue. Handsome Devil, particularly intrigues me.
Yeah.
But is that a teacher?
No, it isn't a teacher.
Or is that a possible sex attacker?
No, it's not that serious. But I can understand when people make that kind of presumption. It's just really an intellectual person who thinks about the mentality before biology or whatever. Looking at a very basic situation.
The key line is there's more to life than books.
Yeah.
There's not much more. Which signifies withdrawal from the act. Right. Yeah. It seems that you place incredible emphasis on. You sort of build up a scenario and then there's that kind of you have to do that line. That's good. It's original. No, but also Jeane, which is I know because the way they're written. I mean, I can't actually consider really adequate precursors. It's not like with Lloyd Cole. I mean, God bless his soul. It's like Bob Dylan. I listen to his lyrics and there's awful things about Cosmopolitan, and it's like Bob Dylan. That's it. I think Forest Fire. I mean, I give Lloyd his due. I think Forest Fire. They're very influenced by Low. That kind of, you're a wonderful person, you've got problems. But I don't hear anything more than influences being regurgitated. But with I've forgotten the song now. But basically with virtually all your songs, there is. I just don't know how you're influenced, and that's when I listened to your top 12. The only thing that really struck home to me was the Johnny Remember Me. But it was like when Johnny, when John Layton was like Across the Wars.
Yes.
And that was the one song. And the only other thing was The Hurt, the way she sang. And when you said this was the most incredible vocal performance I've heard.
Yeah.
I think that was the one.
Yeah.
Be young, be foolish, be happy. Yeah, I suppose there. Yeah, a little bit vocally.
Yeah.
I mean, not vocally, lyrically, I think.
Yeah, it's just a sentiment.
Yeah.
Things that I never actually felt, and I never actually felt that I was, and that's why I attracted me so much.
Yeah.
But it was also very entirely connected with the kind of the normal social club of the early 70s.
See, what struck me about your choice and hearing it was that you really there's a certain there's something incredibly noble about the Smith sound. There's something very valorous.
Yeah.
About and it comes from the guitar and just the whole attack. I mean, it's incredibly, it's really, it's like the chords in William. It's like a real,
bold.
Yeah, dan, dan, okay, it's like the Mongol hordes coming, but they're very gracefully, it's very, and the whole, I don't know how I can describe it, but the whole tone of virtually all those the top 12 was that almost tinny fairground, which is almost camp, dare I say.
Yes, it is.
And I wonder how you relate. Do you like valorous? Do you hear music like the Smiths?
Do I hear music like the Smiths?
Actual music.
From the past, yes, not from the present. I do. It's just like the celebration. We're here, and this is what we can do. It goes back to the whole idea of looking at modern artists and music and seeing them either as teachers or pupils. And I think when you can look at a group or an artist and you can't really tell where they come from, I think that's noble. I think you respect that within people, because within most modern groups you can spot the influences. You can see where they trail themselves from.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of them being the sheep or the shepherd.
It's okay.
I forgot the question.
It's all right.
Valorous.
Valorous
Well,
music.
being sheepish, is that I think you have to make a noise, and you have to shout, and you have to risk.
I don't think being valorous is shouting.
No, it's not. But
It's being very sort of have at you, sir. That kind of Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
And in your Top of the Pops performances, as well as the group seems it's almost like give this man room to perform. It's almost like you really step back quite closely and let Morrissey do the work. It's almost like you're quite involved in your music.
It's not really that way, though. I mean, that's not the way it is. And there's no structure to what happens.
But you tend to move around a fair bit, so I'm just going on the premise that if you're going to move around, then one has to take up one's position.
It's just it's always been a really natural thing.
I really see that some of the pop songs as real works of art.
Oh, that's exactly what we always planned. To be memorable.
In the way that the Rolling Stones used to, and that's how the British City Go thing stand up on because it's like the clothes they wear, whatever, it's got to be special, and it was interesting when Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And they just failed. They just kept, they kept playing the buffoon.
It wasn't topical.
And their whole concept of the moment, which is Morley's sort of, that concept of the moment. It's grab the moment. Pop is the moment. And I agree. I'll go along with that to a degree. Yeah, exactly. And I felt that they were letting it down. I felt that they were playing the buffoon, which is always the classic thing. If you're not entirely sure of yourself, then the easiest thing in the world is to play the buffoon, which means to just blow out one's self-esteem and say, well, it's only a joke.
Exactly.
It's the easiest thing in the world, and it's what is known as selling out.
It's just an embarrassment. They're embarrassed, really, aren't they?
And that when wealth and this is where the corruption of rock and roll is, or whatever it's rock and roll, I suppose, is the. How do you feel about that? The term rock and roll. Is it something that you feel a part of?
It's more attractive than other terms, but I think it's best really not to harm it. It sounds quite snotty, but when I think of rock and roll, I think of people like Elvis Presley, people like Billy Fury, which to me is attractive.
Yeah.
And some groups.
Well, it's like with rock and roll to me is music of a rebellious nature that has a certain tension and release. Very white, just a white approximation of a black music, but done when successfully done with a kind of white European ingenuity that's and I would have thought that in fact in a number of your stances that they are that you are spiritually
a group
from that maybe that tradition. So.
Without the grossness,
without the kind of dogmatism
Yeah.
that you mentioned.
Yeah, because
The legs of
I think because we're avid observers like yourself of the pop culture. We sound like the only into a program, but it's
right.
but because of these things, because we listen to records from every era and just music lovers or whatever. I think we do. It's going to sound snobby, but we realise that I'm sure we realise the good things in rock and roll, and just conversations about Morrissey and I have about old songs and old groups. We talk about the great spirit that Sun records had, Johnny Cash's early image, all these great things about all the really good things about the pop.
Well, the spirit of that, I mean, to me, is quite obviously down to recording live. Which is what I was
saying.
And going for the moment.
Well, that's what I was getting at before when about our recording process. As well, let's get back that other question. That was it. The spirit of going in and let's make a record, and we got this symphony. Let's go. And we when we talk about Elvis Presley, we say he's a transit, but we are talking when pre-army and
sure.
and all these things. And
I think he made some great records for RCA actually, but let's
so do I. But anyway, so there are all sorts of elements of rock and roll, whether it be rock and roll in the 60s or whatever, that we can use the spirit from and out of. With some songs, and I think.
Are there any direct quotes? I mean, like Jeane, is that Satisfaction? I'm sorry, because it's the only one. It's the only song. I keep trying to hear, because like in virtually every other record or every other group, you can hear, oh yeah, they took this song, or I mean, maybe it was on a subconscious lift.
Actually, to be honest, I can remember exactly how we wrote it. I was playing.
Jeane had that.
Yeah, but I used to play it like it. Almost like a sort of drifters on the kind of thing. And Morrissey said, give it a 2-beat kind of, and it's because of the drums again. Morrissey's rhythmical input there.
What, like, give me other examples of that.
The input.
Yeah. What about the gait of Suffer Little Children? That really rambling. Was that dictated? I mean, it seems that you really take that song.
No, when we put it together, Morrissey and I were actually talking about a song about some little children, and I was playing the riff, and I was just playing the whole cycle over and over again while we were talking, and Morrissey just assumed that was the song. I remember it really vividly, and he just assumed that was it, and I was saying, right, well, I was more or less saying, right, should we start writing this song now? And he said, what was that? And right, that's it, I'll take that. And it happened that way. Just shattered the illusion of a great song now.
But like by this time, I mean, like, are there certain tricks that well, I mean, clearly are. I mean, there are certain things. I mean, like you talking about the F sharp, even the actual tuning there. I mean, of different tunings. But I mean, how open are you?
Oh, what?
To experiment. I mean, like on stage, you seem to like stick fairly closely to the parts, and there are certain areas where you can actually do it.
Yeah. Well, at that point, improvisation really on stage, to a point, it is quite dull. I think I don't really.
It's mostly the Russian Ruffians, isn't it? It's that bit, the Russian Ruffians, where it breaks. Forgive me if I'm wrong. There's the bass.
Oh yeah, and it goes into this chiming.
And there's that chiming sort of thing, but there are very few areas where the instruments go into a. And I would have thought also how soon is now would have been murdered to play live.
Oh yeah.
Look at that sound is would have been.
Yeah.
Apparently it's really working now, but the tape mic was.
Oh yeah.
It's an early tape was.
I mean, I can go. I'll go when we're having a guitar talk sometime. I'll go into the difficulties of it. I mean, it's not something that anybody's going to be bothered to read.
Yeah, right. I can imagine.
But but no, in terms of there are loads of things one can do within one verse with that is just backing a vocal that isn't even a musical break.
Yeah.
That, for me, I find really exciting.
Yeah.
For instance, if you get Andy to tune his bass conventionally, and I tune it conventionally, and then I just go down to hold tuning down 2 frets so my chords change. You know what I mean? So like he's playing E and I'm playing. No, he's playing G and I'm playing F. I'm playing that kind of thing. There are loads of interesting little musical quirks you can do, and that's
really.
And what I always tip for you, my boy. Yeah. No, it's just that in the studio now, I'm always really excited. The point I'm making is that it could be a really, if you like, inconsequential part of the song musically because it's got an important vocal line or whatever, or it's got loads of words over it. But there's still something. There are loads of things you can do interesting just within that one full bar kind of thing. And so I'm always really inspired anyway. I think that's the point I'm making anyway with sort of new.
With how soon is now, many. I mean, myself for a time, I think that is like a peak. And it's also like a point of departure.
It's a sidestep.
It's a seminal track, as we might call it, a seminal track, and it's generally agreed as well to be a seminal track. And also, I think Jill's saying, well, there's going to be more in that vein. Also saying they're really going to surprise us.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm not quoting her verbatim. So
no, it's just typical. That's all.
It's all right, it's going to, there's going to be a few people surprised. And people are sort of looking for new directions. I mean, people are really expecting a fuck of a lot from you. In other words, how are you going to deal with it?
Basically by ignoring them, I think, and just staying within our own ideas of what should be, and that's the only way that we can progress.
Yeah.
Because when you start listening to people, when you start trying to please them, pamper them, suddenly you don't really know who you are, and you don't really remember why you became in a group. So I think advice has to be really ignored, and ultimately you just have to look within yourself and say, well, what do I personally want to do, and what would please me?
It gets easier. Well, I don't know whether it's the way we are at this time or what. I don't know whether we're going to say this maybe 5 minutes ago or whatever. But it's becoming easier anyway to ignore people's criticisms, good or bad. I'm not talking about the press specifically.
Yeah. Were you really hurt by the first? I mean, I don't know what the first backlash was. What I mean. Does anyone recall
I
the
was stunned by it, mainly because it was written by people who had supported us 3 months earlier, and that's why it stunned me.
What was it?
It was quite a little glut all of a sudden. Yeah. And I don't want to name names, but I could do.
To explain it generally, it was when it was, I don't know, maybe around the time after the Sandy single. First was all the speculation about the Sandy single, which I might as well say now, I regard as being a total success as a record.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you play it now, it's a record that will always sort of stand up on its own without all the press and without the, anyway, timeless, etc. But it started to happen. Backlash. There was a lot of kind of sceptical remarks made before that happened. But anyway, around this period, it was it started to look like the next single release is going to be a hit, and the one after that because of our status, etc. And because of that, when singles were reviewed, especially William, but probably Heaven Knows as well. I mean, it was happening before William came out. People started to. The obvious thing was to go at Morrissey's flowers, then Morrissey's shirt and his hair, and one thing that was great out of it, that I put out to Morrissey, was that out of all this possible abuse, we had loads of abuse, no one mentioned or criticised his voice at all, and it used to freak me out that no one used to praise Morrissey's vocal abilities. I thought maybe it was because of everything else kind of overshadowing what he was doing vocally.
No one ever praised Mick Jagger's vocal ability. Not to say this, that you are. I mean, you're a much better singer. Yeah. But it's almost like the personality becomes secondary. Yeah. To ability, it's the personality that supersedes ability. Totally, unfortunately.
So, but because of all the criticism, see, that was one example of some things that we found. What's the word?
Did you sense this thing I mean, I've noticed it maybe lopsidedly because I've not really kept up with it. But there was like the great Johnny Marr, as the Melody Maker put it in there. You know, in fact, and Melody Maker seems to be very, very good with you. Except there was that very nice review last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that a first from them?
No, because he had written a review made was identical.
Of the Belfast gigs.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So.
No, but
What about the album reviews again? Which none of which I read. No, except for one. I read the Melody Maker.
First
Really
album.
good.
They were all incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
But it was the attitude that said Smiths are absolutely brilliant, but and then there was just like a shallow nonsense. I mean, I always found that when people criticised it, they never really said anything that was clear.
Yeah.
They never really said anything that had any weight.
Substance.
It was just all these shadows of doubt.
Yeah.
And it came at a time when suddenly we were a national group instead of a group that might make it.
Yeah.
So I think there was lots of resentment from people.
Have you felt? I mean, has the group? I mean, well, the group has worked in. I mean, with individuals. You work with everything with the girl. You work with socialising with Lloyd Cole. I mean, that's not working with them. But your peers, do you feel frustrated that not more of your peers are really giving you a run for your money?
Yes.
Yeah. What?
Do you want to get more specific about that, but without getting bilious or vitriolic unnecessarily?
What?
What do you think is lacking? Do you feel, for example, that there's a lack of a communal spirit that is.
Oh, I mean, can we just take the Band-Aid situation, and which is very, very, very dodgy to talk about, because I mean, there's no doubt in the intention behind the record. It's a really, strange, bizarre situation, because there's obviously no doubt in the validity of the statement.
Right, yeah.
But it's such musical snobbery that, and in such a way that just a possible big quote, which will work against us, but that because it's such an absurd situation for us to have even been asked, and therefore to have to take part because you can't refuse, would have been an embarrassment. I mean, to see the Smiths standing in there amongst all those.
Really, you felt that?
Amongst all those, yeah, of course. I mean, really, we would have had to. What could we do? I mean, but it's a ridiculous situation because Mitch will just say, yeah, well, we didn't ask you, so. I mean, it's strange, you see, because in a way it gets back to the backlash, but something, a great incident occurred anyway when it was right at the kind of the height of the backlash, say in summer, and William was on Round Table, and by then we sort of, stopped getting stung by it and sort of started to find the funny side in it. And on Round Table there was Noddy Holder, Tony Blackburn, and Hazel Dean. Anyway, and it was the most vitriolic attack ever. It was hatred, and it was so over the top that it was funny. Everyone involved with the Smiths found it funny because we all went, phew, it was a big sigh of relief because obviously the real backlash was over, because when old people come out, it's safe to come into the water or out of the water, whatever the expression is. And I mean, they picked up the new thing is to, Smith's backlash, and therefore any of these indie hipsters who were originally backlashing us, say originally slagging us, are therefore associated with Noddy Holder and all that kind of the old people. And Midure is the same, not unconnected totally with the Band-Aid thing. Just that I've got Midure in mind now. I think Midure is really the epitome of a lot of what's wrong.
Middle-aged.
Yeah,
Which is wrong when you're not middle-aged.
Yeah.
But to me, the Band-Aid thing was just like the London Palladium. It was like everybody getting together on the rostrum to see who looked the richest.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would